Okay, so this is my first video. I'm using this very expensive headset that I paid way too much for, and even with this headset, it's still making a very annoying buzzing sound, so I apologize in advance for that to the, maybe one person who will see this. I just wanted to come on and give my thoughts about Calvin Johnson's possible retirement this offseason. Before I get this started, it is important to note I am no sports analyst. I'm just a Lions fan. Noting what I saw about Calvin this season, I'm sure all of this has been said already, but I figured I'd make it anyway. This could be my first video. I'm hoping next season to maybe do some things with the Lions. I've always wanted to have a YouTube channel, but I never had the commitment to it. I had one in the past. I got like 30 something subscribers and I deleted the channel because I just didn't have the desire to do it anymore with school. But now that I'm out of school, I figured, hey, let's start something. Okay, so let's start off in the beginning of the season. The thing beginning of the season was I didn't notice anything different about Calvin. He kind of looked the same to me. He looked somewhat healthy, not completely. Obviously, he hasn't been healthy for years, but he looked better than he normally does. That's when we went on that 0-5 stretch, and we finally beat the Bears. But he looked fine back then. I was pretty happy. He looked like he was back. Unfortunately, the team wasn't back. We were still in the off season. We didn't feel like winning any games. But then he finally won a game for us with that huge catch against the Bears, which was awesome. It was great. I was like, okay, he's back. He's returned to form. Let's get something going. It was around week 7 I noticed that his ankles were showing a little bit of wear and tear again, which was kind of upsetting to see. He was questionable for almost every single game around midseason. I remember on Thanksgiving he was like a last day decision or something. And that was the day he went off, and they put Eric Rowe, I think his name is, on him, and he just got 3 touchdowns off of him because Chip Kelly doesn't know how to coach a defense. Disrespected Megatron, and he showed that he can still do it. Towards the end of the season, around week 13, he was questionable literally every other game, which is upsetting to see. I was like, man, he's injured again. His body's been through so much. He's taken some nasty hits. At that point of the season, he took a nasty headshot from, I believe, Brandon Browner. I don't know if that was week 14. I don't really remember. I just remember it was a Monday night game, and I was pissed because Browner's a dirty player. He got right up, he popped right back up, which was a good sign. It goes without saying, Calvin's a tough dude. He plays through a lot. During the year, he broke the single-season receiving yards. He was playing with broken fingers, I believe, in the last game, and that was just insane. It's a tough guy, been through a lot, but eventually there's a point where his body's going to give out on him and he just can't do it anymore, and that might be this season according to all the reports. Now what I think about it is I think he's going to retire. I only see 2 options. I see him getting cut or traded, which he has said he doesn't want to go anywhere else. He wants to be on the Lions, and he's proven that with his loyalty. He doesn't want to go anywhere. As for cutting him, I've heard that the negatives outweigh the positives. Obviously, if we cut him, he could go to a team of his choice, hopefully like a Super Bowl caliber team, because everyone knows he deserves a ring. He's done so much for us. I want nothing but the best for him. I'd rather see him go to a different team than retire. But the thing with cutting him is it's going to do a number on our cap, and it's going to be better if we just keep him. And if his body's not up to it, he's got to retire. It's sad, but he's stuck here. It's kind of like the Barry Sanders effect, he did the same thing. I believe Barry also retired when he was 30. I think it was his 10th season. Calvin just finished his 9th, so it's very similar, but he's 1 year off, or Calvin's 1 year off. And they're both legends. Calvin's obviously a first ballot Hall of Famer in my opinion. It'll happen eventually, and they're very similar players. They're both very humble. Barry Sanders would score a touchdown, he wouldn't celebrate. He acted like he was there before. He wouldn't hand the ball up to the referees. He's very humble. Spoke nothing but great things about other players. And you got people like Des Bryant out there who does nothing but talk trash about the other players. And it's like, show some respect. You're all playing the same game. You're all great. Just, the humble people are always my favorite. Calvin Johnson actually got me into football. I remember my friends were playing Madden. I had never owned a Madden game. I think it was Madden 25. The year after he was on the cover, or Calvin was on the cover of the Madden 13. I went and picked up the game. I went right into Ultimate Team because I'm always into collecting cards and stuff. And the first player I got, it asked me like, what's the starter pack or whatever, and I picked Tom Brady, and it gave me a Calvin Johnson in the pack, and I didn't know who he was, but he was great. He always got open. I was like, damn, this guy's really good. And I looked him up, and apparently he was the best receiver in the league at the time. And I watched some highlights, and I was like, this guy's great. And that's how I became a Lions fan. Yes, I bandwagoned off Calvin, but nowadays I'm in it for the whole team. I love what we have right now. We finished 7-9, which sucks, but I think we have something special for next year, especially if Calvin stays. But the dude got me into football. He got me into sports in general. Once I started watching football, I got into basketball. I saw Kevin Durant, and I was like, wow, this guy's great. So I became a Thunder fan. So although I don't know Calvin on a personal level, this is still very upsetting to me. My favorite player of all time. I know a lot of football players now. I've been into it for 4 years. I know all the history. I know all the best players in the past, and he's my favorite player of all time. I owe him for getting me into sports. He was the one who did it. I wouldn't be into it nowadays if it wasn't for him. So if he does retire this offseason, it's going to be a terribly sad day for me. I'm going to be very upset. But I'm going to be happy for him. He's going to make his decision, and if he wants to go, he should go. But I hope he makes the Pro Bowl this year. I hope he goes because it could be his last one. And on the subject of the Pro Bowl, that's another thing I'd like to bring up. There's a lot of hate going on for Calvin when he got selected to the Pro Bowl this year. Everyone was like, he doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve it. But the thing is, yes, he does. Is he the same as he was back in 13 or 2012 when he broke the record? No. But he's still Calvin. He still put up insane numbers this year. Let me see if I can pull them up. I believe he finished with... He had 9 touchdowns, 88 receptions, 1,214 yards. If that's not a Pro Bowl caliber season, I don't know what is. But I feel like people are just hating on him because, it's cool to hate Calvin now. But now that he's possibly retiring, everyone's jumping back on the wagon and be like, he's so great. But my point is, you still questioned his greatness, which is, not right. He broke Jerry Rice's single-season receiving yard record. Julio Jones actually almost did it this year. I think he was off by 90 yards of beating Calvin. That was scary. I was watching I wasn't watching it. I had a feed going on for the Falcons game. And I remember he got he got 50 yards in the matter of 1 minute. And I started actually freaking out. This was mid-third quarter. And he had just hit 150 yards. He needed 260 something, which is very doable. It's Julio Jones. He's one of the best right now. But, it's sad that people would question Calvin. He's one of the best of all time. He's the greatest of all time in my opinion. Yes, I'm biased. But, I love that dude. And that should just about wrap this up. Obviously, no matter what Calvin does, I wish him the best in the future. I hope if he retires, he has a great life after football. He deserves it. He's done so much for us. And if he does retire, I'll see him in the Hall of Fame ceremony soon. That'll be great. I'll be very proud to be a Lions fan that day. Thank you for watching, and yeah.